Okay, so this is going to be lecture 4 in the chapter on social psychology, and we were just talking about love. And let's see, the last one we talked about love and cognitive dissonance. So here I want to pick up talking more about love and move into some prejudice and prejudice, I think. Okay, so I wanted to stop that last lecture because we were getting close to the 10-minute mark, and I didn't want to rush some of this, some of these ideas. So one of the questions that I always like to start the semester off is that psychology can actually give you ideas or tips as to how to make somebody like you. And that's what is outlined here, is that there are factors that predict if someone will find you attractive. And when I say attractive, I don't necessarily mean physically attractive, that they find you pretty, but that they find you somebody that they are attracted or desire to be with, right? So some of the factors that predict if someone will find you appealing or if they are attracted to spending time in your company. One theory, of course, physical attractiveness is a component, and there's a concept called matching hypothesis. Oh, I should try to find that video too. And what the matching hypothesis says is basically that we pair up, that similarly attractive people will pair up with similarly attractive people. You're not likely to find a very unattractive person with a very attractive person. And this has actually been demonstrated in the lab. And sort of the idea is the way it works is that the most attractive people get picked off first, and then it sort of moves down. So the next are the moderately attractive people, and then at the bottom are the least attractive people. And so we generally match up within one or two degrees. I'll see if I can't find that video. You might find that one interesting. A second principle is that people are more likely to like you if you like the same things that they like, or if you like them. So similarity causes liking, right? That we, not only similarity in if you like me, I'm more likely to like you, but if I show that I like the same kinds of things you like, you're more likely to like me. I hope that was starting to get kind of circular. But this speaks to this idea of, you can call it self-enhancement, but it speaks to this idea of affirmation. In other words, if you say to the person sitting next to you, hey, I really like your shoes, right? You're saying to them that you have good taste, and I noticed that you have good taste. Well, that's going to make them feel better, right? That's going to make them feel better. And then they're going to associate, going back to the chapter on memory, going back to all the stuff that we know about conditioning, they're going to associate this positive feeling that they have about themselves with you. So when you make someone feel good about themselves, they associate that feeling with you, and they're more likely to like you, right? I guess that's really more about reciprocity. We like those that like us, and we like those that like the same things that we like. We also have a tendency, when we are in relationship with somebody, when we have friends, we have a tendency to overgeneralize how similar they are to us. So if we meet someone and we feel like we really connect with them, we will assume that they are more like us than they really are like us. And then, then you may date for 6 months and realize, oh my gosh, you don't like the same music, or you don't like the same politician, or how did you ever possibly get together? Or maybe you've had one of those experiences where you're just really surprised that somebody you find after you've been together for a long time, you've been good friends for a long time, and you're surprised to find out that they don't like vegetables. Like, how can that possibly be? And that's because we overgeneralize that people that we like are like us, right? And then we also, the number 4 down there, we have a tendency to think that our partners are better partners than they are, right? When we idealize our partners and they idealize us, when they sort of put us on a pedestal, we like them better. And then a really interesting thing happens is when they're no longer our partners, when we break up, when we get divorced, now they weren't so ideal, right? So it's an interesting sort of some of the research on attraction. So we've already talked about the triangle theory of love, which says there's these 3 components, but we haven't talked about love as attachment. This is a concept I actually spend quite a little bit of time talking about in my human development class, but So I don't want to go too deep into that rabbit hole, but the idea is that what we come to call love is actually a grown-up version of attachment that we learn in infancy. So the theory goes a little bit like this, that when we're born and we are completely dependent upon our parents' care, and we cry because we're cold, because we're hungry, because we're scared, whatever, and the big giant person and the parent comes and makes us feel better, and then we cry and the big giant person comes, and we're hungry and the big giant person comes, and we express a need, and over again and over again our adult caregiver responds, right? So what we learn is that if I have a need, I can trust that my parents, I can trust that these big giant people, I can trust that people are good, and that if I need something, I express my need and my need will be taken care of. And I develop a secure attachment. That when I am when I am distressed, when I am hungry, when I am cold, when my diaper needs changed, when I stub my toe, whenever I have a need, I am secure that people will help me, or I can find someone to help me. That's secure attachment, right? And people who feel a sense of secure attachment are more likely to trust others, and they're not, as opposed to the other kinds of attachment. So the anxious ambivalent one, this is the case where the child cries and sometimes the parent comes, sometimes the parent doesn't come, they really don't know, sometimes they just cry just to see, right? So they develop this anxious kind of insecure attachment, like they just don't know if people are reliable or not. You fast forward and you're 22 years old and you're getting into romantic relationships and you just don't know if your partner likes you or loves you or if they're going to be committed to you. So sometimes you act in ways just to see, right? Just to test them, because you really don't feel terribly secure. You just don't know for sure. And that the idea is that this begins in infancy, because when you were an infant and you cried, the adult caregiver didn't come reliably. So you can't really rely on other people. So you're kind of anxious or you just don't know. And you might actually get into a relationship and get out of it because you don't want to count on somebody too much that may not be there. Right, that's sort of the middle ground. The third one, the avoidant person, these people, these children, not only did someone not come and take care of them when they had a need, but when people did come, they may have actually made it worse. So this baby cries, and not only does the parent not come, but when the parent does come, maybe they hurt them or maybe they made them feel worse. So what this child learns is that not only do people not make things better, but people actually make things worse. That people can not be trusted, you don't turn away from them, you avoid them, you take care of yourself because people are not good. And so the idea is that we learn these ways of being in relationship with others when we're an infant, and we carry those patterns of behavior into adulthood, and we'll call them love. Obviously, the secure person is going to be the easiest person to love, right? Because the secure person generally trusts people, and they'll probably be the easiest to love you back. Okay, this is just a slide. I actually don't remember where I got this list, but I was looking for something on friendship, and maybe it was in your textbook. I don't know. I don't think so. But it was just a list of the ways to be a good friend. One of the things that I struggle with is what I call friending. Um, I'm not really very good at the reciprocity that's associated with friendships. You know, friendships are relationships that are supposed to sort of go back and forth, and I'm kind of lazy and don't really I don't consider myself to have very many close friends because I'm kind of lazy and the reciprocation part. But in this case, it talks about like when we disclose. And so the idea of friendship, the idea of being in relationship, is that it is a mutually self-disclosing relationship. And this is what we call intimacy. In this case, intimacy is not sex, right? Intimacy is I tell you about my vulnerabilities, you tell me about your vulnerabilities. Now, I do have a couple friends, I guess I should say, They know all of my deep, dark secrets. I hardly ever really interact with them. We have a very intimate relationship, right? We know each other's those vulnerabilities, those spots where they can really poke you, right? And that's what it means to be in an intimate relationship, is that somebody knows your weaknesses. And in essence, when we self-disclose, we give them some of our garbage, we tell them some of our dirt, and then they give us some of their dirt. So they have things they could use against us, and I have things I can use against them. And if you're ever in a relationship where somebody says that's TMI, what they're basically saying is you're giving me too much information, you're giving me too much ammunition or too much self-disclosure. I don't know what to do with your secrets. I'm uncomfortable. And some people are just a lot slower in that self-disclosure. I'm pretty quick when it comes to self-disclosure, and that makes some people uncomfortable. And then caring is considered, as in this case, described as work. It's the stuff that we do to show that we care about, to show that it's the acts of assistance. And I'm going to stop this slide right here, and then I'll come back and talk about prejudice in the fifth